Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. We are pleased to be joined by the one, the only Ben Schneider. Of course, can I say this now? Fully a staff member of Lastcar.com. And of course,
Lastcar.info, but yes, staff writer at Lastcar. So yeah, Brock's 500 days project's taken off in the Patreon, so it's been good for us. But yes, happy to be officially part of a team now, and we'll see if that allows us to expand our coverage as well. But thank you to everybody for the support on Brock's new series, and it's allowed us to make some changes here at Lastcar that benefit me and benefit Brock obviously as well. So it's all been going great.
Yeah, it's been going good. And part 4, I believe, will get released soon. For Patreon subscribers like myself, you can get an advanced watch on part 4. I haven't got a chance to do that, but I did get to watch part 2 and part 3 because of my Patreon subscription. Also, for obvious reasons, Ben is also my colleague on and the host of Grid Encore, which will be returning pretty soon, I think.
Yeah, we'll be back sometime probably in a month or so. Once the Xfinity truck and ARCA seasons get started and get underway, we might do one preview show with an off-season recap of some news and silly season and things like that. So yeah, looking forward to that. Glad to have you back on the team this year again, Casey, and Brandon and Josh. I know we're gearing up for that as well. So looking forward to taking Grid Network to some new heights in 2023 as well as Lastcar.info.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. We have some big plans at Grid, of course. We'll be covering our first SRX race as well later in the year when I head to Berlin. So awkwardly enough, Berlin is before Michigan. That'll be in August. That'll be a fun week. So I'll hype that up as we go along. But Ben, there is some big news today. It was just announced that awkwardly enough, Cadillac and Andretti are partnering up for a potential run in Formula One. Might as well this was planned today that we were going to have you on, but obviously with this news breaking, might as well get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about the Andretti news. I mean, Michael's been trying to do this for almost a year now with these rumors that he was going to try to buy the Sauber Alfa Romeo team, and those fell through. And then I think it was last February that he announced Andretti Global and trying to get those plans underway, and briefly some talks with Renault to be the engine supplier. But obviously there was some pushback from the teams, and the FIA said, Andretti needs to prove their worth. I don't know if a name like Andretti isn't enough. I don't know what is, but I guess they wanted a new OEM or some engine manufacturer support or whatever. So that was kind of out of left field. I didn't expect Cadillac. I thought maybe if they were going to hook up with an American brand, it might be Ford. Now we've had some rumors that Ford might be interested in coming back. I've always thought, Ford has the connection with Haas in NASCAR with Stewart Haas Racing. Maybe if Ford wanted to get back in, they'd have an avenue with Haas F1. But to see Cadillac show interest and these plans with Andretti Global certainly don't seem to be dead yet, despite maybe the best wishes of some of the team principals of the top Formula One teams. I think it's only going to benefit the sport in the long run to have Andretti have a presence in Formula One as the 11th team, and we'll see. I think Michael said we're leaning towards an American driver in at least one of our 2 seats. You probably know who that is. I know Colton Herta had the whole super license issue and debate going on last year, but I guess it's funny because I think when you look at how the seats played out, Herta's inability to get on the grid actually helped Logan Sargent, just with how the seats shuffled around with AlphaTauri and Alpine and of course Williams. I think not having Herta allowed that extra seat to open up at Williams through the whole musical chairs situation, and ironically one American's failure to get on the grid allowed another American to get on the grid in Logan Sargent. So it's a great time to be an American F1 fan. Obviously we've got 3 races coming up this year in the country, and to have Andretti, an American brand, with Cadillac, another American brand, partnering up and trying to get into the sport, it's a good time to be a fan.
Yeah, it is. So obviously we'll have more on that. Speaking of Williams, we're gonna have something. I'm not telling anybody what it is. He knows what it is, but we might have someone cool coming on next week. So stay tuned for that. So kind of talk about kind of relaying. Now let's go into IMSA. There's been this news, of course, I just got a release today from IMSA saying there's going to be 61 cars on the grid. That's probably the most it's ever been. That's one over like the 60 car mark. And apparently there's like a bunch more on the waiting list or something. So this is going to be a competitive championship. I already got my interviews out for some feeders out for Rolex coverage and getting ready for that. But overall, how excited are you for the Rolex 24 and plus one additional car coming in too?
Yeah, of course, the car count is great. There's no such issues over there in IMSA. I must admit, I still am not as familiar with IMSA as I am NASCAR, Indy, and F1, but I do always watch the Rolex 24 every year. It's a great way to kick off the motorsports season. I know certainly who the top teams are and the top drivers, who's going to be a championship contender. And of course, you see all the names from other motorsports series coming to do their one-offs as extra drivers to do the 24-hour race. So I'm looking forward to it. It sounds like we got another great entry list this year, and like I said, it's always a fun way to kick off the year, and one of my favorite races of the year to watch. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, of course. Right when Chili Bowl starts, that's racing coverage begins. Then we got Rolex, and then we're going to be right into the season. So it's going to be fun there. Let's go to NASCAR for a second. You know how much I like to hit on a bunch of topics. So I want to make sure you're ready for this. Jordan Anderson Racing will have two cars next season. Jeb Burton will be in the 27, and Parker Retzlaff will be in the 31. So the first time that team has had two full-time entries in the Xfinity Series. Your thoughts on that? And this is a pretty good lineup for this team.
Yeah, Parker Retzlaff is in the 31 and Jeb Burton's in the 27. Is that right?
Yep.
Right. So yeah, I mean, Parker, got a few starts last year with Ryan Sieg's team at Our Motorsports, and I think he did reasonably well in the opportunities that he got. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do now with Jordan Anderson's team. And I wouldn't sleep on Jeb Burton either. I feel like he's had the disadvantage of having to bounce around from ride to ride over the last few years. He hasn't really been able to find a place where he can settle in and establish himself. So I think that's kind of hurt his ranking among how some fans view him, but I still think he's got a lot of talent. He just needs the right opportunity and the right pieces around him to be able to showcase that talent. And Jordan Anderson's team certainly is one of many teams in the Xfinity Series that does a lot with a little. I wouldn't be surprised to see them, with both of their drivers here, continue to make some improvements and progress, and who knows, maybe even compete for some top fives or some wins later in the season.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what that team can do. I also had announced today, just announced there, might as well hit you with this. Colleague is their crew chief lineup just got announced for the Cup Series. The good news is there's no changes. Matt Swinderski, I hope I pronounced that name right, will be the crew chief for AJ Allmendinger, and of course Trent Owens will remain with Justin Haley. Consistency, Colleague had some good points this year, but this is a team that could do a lot of big things in the Cup Series in 2023. Of course, we all talked about that in our Cup Series preview show with Taylor Kitchen from TobyChristie.com, and of course Above the Line, which you can now view on my channel. We'll post a link to it, and I believe Grid Network also retweeted it as well. What are your thoughts on what Colleague can do in 2023?
Well, I said it. I mean, I think you were on the Encore show when we were talking about AJ Allmendinger in particular. I still selfishly wish he were running Xfinity this year, because I just think to have 8 road courses, that's a schedule that's tailor made for somebody like him, and would probably be his best shot at taking a series championship. But I'm not going to go so far as to call him a Cup championship contender just yet. I suppose it's possible Colleague could surprise us like Trackhouse this year, and Ross Chastain came up just one spot short of a championship. So who knows what's going to happen. But I definitely don't think it's a stretch to say AJ could at least make the round of 8, looking at where the Roval is placed in the playoffs, and the progress that team has made in such a short time. They're already Cup winners. I believe they're the only non-chartered team to win a Cup race in kind of a charter open era here. Obviously now they have their charters and 2 full-time entries here, but I think they could surprise a lot of people, and I think the Xfinity program will take another step forward as well. I know AJ kind of carried that team last year. I think Dale Jr. said on the Dale Jr. download when their Cup program was announced that he thought their Xfinity team might take a step back because they would have to put so many resources and so much more effort into the Cup side that the Xfinity program might suffer a bit. But now that their Cup program is a little bit more established, I think you might see some improvement on the Xfinity side as well from them.
Of course, Chandler Smith will join that team as well, taking that in the 16. I didn't get it. No, I'm asking you all these things because I didn't have a chance to ask you this yet. Haley Deegan and Thorsport. I know you gave some thoughts on this a few weeks ago on Grid Tonight, but Thorsport and Ford are going together. They're back. Haley Deegan will be in the 13. The rest of the lineup remains the same. Tom Jeske in the 66, Matt Craft in the 88, Ben Rhodes in the 99. Your thoughts on what Thorsport can do in 2023, and they're back under Ford power. So a lot of people are saying that that Ty Majeski could do some things this year. Do you think he could be a championship contender, or overall, what are your thoughts about Haley Deegan going there?
Well, he was a championship contender just last year, right?
I
So
mean,
if he's back with Thorsport, why would that change? Yeah, I think he's going to come back very, very strong.
Yes.
You want to talk about musical chairs? Look at Thorsport's manufacturer history. It seems like they've gone from Chevy to Toyota to Ford, back to Toyota, back to Ford now. Maybe one other change in there that I'm forgetting, but I don't expect that to hurt them too much, because they've obviously been through these manufacturer switches before, and to bring Haley on, obviously the deal that she has with Ford Performance as a Ford development driver, obviously if they wanted to add her to the roster, they were going to have to make that switch. And like I said on the Encore show, I really think that this year is make or break for Haley more than ever. I think she's got all the pieces around her that she needs to be successful. She's got 2 years under her belt now. I don't say this to be mean or to be rude or anything, but it's time to take that step forward and prove but you've got what it takes to compete at this level. I don't consider DGR like the best team in the truck series or anything, but there were some people saying her equipment kind of held her back. She had teammates in the 17 truck that were winning races. I know that they were a little bit more experienced than she is, but I think she had solid equipment at DGR, and I think she certainly has championship caliber equipment now that she's with Thorsport. So I would hope that we can see a little bit of improvement in her competing for top 10s and maybe even some top 5s more often than not, and certainly more often than she was the last 2 seasons at DGR.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you this: biggest team that will perform there's a lot of teams in trucks that switch manufacturers. Biggest team that will perform well: KBM, Tricon, or Thorsport with their new manufacturer change? Who will perform the best out of all of them, you think?
I'm leaning towards Thorsport just because they've got experience on their side. Tricon Garage, I think, again, their driver lineup's going to be a little bit younger, and KBM as well. Going with the manufacturer switch, I think you might see them struggle the first half of the year. Maybe pick it up a little bit. I'm sure there are a lot of great talented people there that will be able to adapt, but it might take some time. And Tricon will probably be the same way. So I think of those 3 teams that you just mentioned, Thorsport's run Fords before, and I know Tricon ran Toyotas as David Gilliland Racing as well. So that might give them a little bit of a leg up over Kyle Busch Motorsports going to Chevrolet. They've been with Toyota since the beginning of their existence when Kyle started that team when he was still racing with Joe Gibbs. So I think they're the ones that you might have to look at as we've got to give them some time to adapt. But Thorsport, and maybe to a lesser extent Tricon, I think will be able to adapt pretty quickly.
All right. Last thing is, I figured that anytime anybody comes on here, I have to ask you about ARCA. Usually you'd ask me, but that's well, there's no news yet, but of course, not much to report on the ARCA side yet. But there is the new TV deal with Fox Sports. They're going to broadcast all the races and stuff. Say what you want about the coverage, but overall, how big is that for the series?
Yeah, well, I have to be honest. I'm not going to lie. I do think that there are a lot of improvements that Fox Sports can still make, particularly in their truck and ARCA coverage. But you're absolutely right. No doubt to have all 20 races on Fox Sports platform for the ARCA Menard series. I know some people still don't get FS2, but I think more people get it now than ever before in that channel's history, and I think Fox has really pushed to try to make that channel a little bit more relevant. I think it's a huge deal for everybody in ARCA, and really looking forward to seeing how that affects the ARCA season this year, and hopefully gives it a little bit of a boost on the TV side of things.
Yeah, there might be a couple announcements that may boost the series as well. So kind of and kind of going off that, you mentioned Fox's TV coverage. I figured I'd ask you this too. There will be a new truck series announcer next year. Of course, Vince Welch announced that that he will not be with Fox Sports this season, and obviously that means a new gap on pit road, as well as they'll have to fill a couple more spots. But overall, what do you think about that?
Well, it's no secret I didn't love Vince in the booth, but on pit road I thought he was fantastic, and I think that is a huge loss for Fox Sports in 2023. I respect the hell out of what Vince has accomplished in his career. He's had an extraordinary career in this sport, and in the world of sports broadcasting and sports media in general. So certainly want to send him my best wishes in whatever's next for him. But yeah, for Fox, it's going to be interesting to see who they use to fill that gap, particularly now in the truck booth. I know Jamie Little did the Knoxville race last year, if I recall correctly, for Fox. So I suppose she might be an option. Or I don't know if they'll look to hire in-house and promote somebody, or if they might go recruit somebody from another network. But yeah, certainly going to be interesting to see what they do to fill that gap. But yeah, I think that's particularly on the Cup side of things for pit row. That's a huge loss for Fox. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fill that.
Yeah, it should be. Well, Ben Schneider, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us, and we'll have to have you on again to react to more big motorsports news.
Thank you very much, Casey. Thank you very much. It's been its first show 2023. I almost said Kobe, but Kobe and Casey.
Well, we had Kobe Lambeth on last week.
That's right. Yes. So. Thank you very much for having me, Casey.